Meanwhile, the president tweeting about Matt Lauer today. Wow, Matt Lauer was just fired from NBC for inappropriate sexual behavior in the workplace. But when will the top executives at NBC and Comcast be fired for putting out so much fake news? Check out Andy Lack's past. And on we go. All right, we got Spieckerman Media President and CEO Lee Spieckerman with us. Lee, what did you think of the president's initial response to all of this?
Well, I think President Trump tends to tweet on big things and big happenings, whether they directly relate to his office or not. And frankly, the left-leaning establishment media laps it up, and it allows President Trump to control the agenda, and it puts them off balance. You have at least two news networks, CNN and MSNBC, and I watch them closely, along with Fox Business being my favorite, but they constantly lament how terrible it is what President Trump is doing. That's what they spend almost all their time on. And frankly, that plays right into the president's strategy. So it's just part of that. NBC News, Comcast is a great company, and the head of NBC, Steve Burke, is one of the best executives in all of media. But unfortunately, the NBC News division is decidedly left-leaning. And for President Trump to take a shot at Andy Lack and Phil Griffin is not a shock, and frankly not totally out of line given their history.
But it has nothing to do with these charges and developments at all. And so you might be right about that, Lee. But my only point on this is he probably would have reaped bigger dividends saying nothing at all, wouldn't he?
You know what? I would trust his instincts on that, and not that I by any means like a lot of the stuff that President Trump tweets, but in terms of it working for what he's trying to accomplish, you know, he's been pretty successful.
No, you're right.
He got
himself elected president of the United States.
He knows something about this stuff.
But do you think that given this, I will argue here that you make a very good point about how this sort of takes away some of the firepower in investigations over his moral propriety and all of that, given the fact that some of the people who've been the most zealous going after him are now caught up in webs of their own. So there is something to that. But I'm wondering whether commenting on any of this stuff just sort of feeds the beast. And he right now is in a battle of his life to get these tax cuts through. They just might. And just focus on that. What do you think?
Well, I think that he's calling attention to the establishment media's avowedly, egregiously anti-President Trump bias. Yeah. And he takes every opportunity to do that. And then he's pointing out these guys aren't purer than the driven snow. In terms of what you've mentioned before that, yes, you know, Roy Moore, whatever his failings, down in Alabama, the guy running in the U.S. Senate special election, has been blessed by God, because in the wake of his scandal, we now have this cascade of accusations against left-leaning politicians and media celebrities and movie stars. And so now, and it's wrong, it's the wrong attitude, but a lot of voters are thinking, hey, they all do it. And that's one reason that Roy Moore has retaken the lead in the polls in that Alabama Senate race. Yeah, well,
so, there might be a lot of, you're right. I mean, there are some distinguishing differences here. And in Roy Moore's case, if these charges are true, they involve underage women and all that. But leaving that aside, I am curious as to whether it has reverberated in a way that a lot of Roy Moore's critics could not have foreseen, that people in Alabama are more angry at, critics of Roy Moore, those outside of Alabama trying to decide this election, and even the Republican establishment players like Mitch McConnell trying to even have a new election, and that is actually helping Moore.
It is. It's the two together. It's the establishment in the Republican Party and the left-leaning establishment media trying to demonize and get rid of Roy Moore. And, hey, a lot of the accusations and criticisms of him I agree with. Yeah. But you know what? Alabamans don't want to be told how to vote.
No one does. No one does.
Sick and tired of it. No one. And that's what we're seeing all over the country. Hey, Democrats didn't want to be told they had to vote for Hillary Clinton. That's why Bernie Sanders would have won the nomination had it not been for the superdelegates and the horrific manipulation that Donna Brazile and others were involved with in the entire entire party was manipulated by the Hillary Clinton campaign. So nobody, whether you're left, right, or in the middle, likes for establishment people in this day and age and the media to be telling them who they have to vote for. And that's something that every politician of every stripe needs to start taking account of. Now, I do wish we were talking a lot more about tax reform and things of that nature. And, you know, that's a heck of a lot more important, is getting that passed and, frankly, getting changes made to it that make it more effective.
Real quickly, we're going a little over here. Some of my producers are probably screaming at me. They are, actually. I'm curious, does this all cancel out the harassment, all the other issues, since it seems to have infected both parties, both sides, liberals, conservatives, and you know, I know there are differences and grades of this, but it seems to be so rampant now, and across corporate America now, and across all persuasions now. Does it cancel out? Does it change anything? What?
Well, I hope it does change things, and I hope it doesn't cancel it out. As I said, though, when it comes to politicians, it does contribute to the perception among voters that they're all pretty crooked, and you know, and so that helps someone like Roy Moore, who was the first to go down. But the Matt Lauer situation is just the latest thunderclap in the storm of racial harassment reckoning that has got to happen, had to happen, has taken far too long to happen. A question I would have is, this occurred allegedly 3 years ago. We were told in the report in this segment that other people around NBC News and the Today Show knew this kind of stuff was going on. We need a new policy, Neil, in this country, across business and across government. Same policy we have about terrorism when it comes to sexual harassment, and that is, if you see something, say something. Yeah. We shouldn't leave it to these victimized women or anybody victimized to have to report this and not to have any backup, anybody else helping them out. Because you know what? When you undergo that kind of trauma, when someone very powerful has an implicit ability to destroy or impair your career, you know what? Maybe you're a little nervous about coming out and discussing that. And that's why friends and associates, but certainly coworkers, should start speaking out. If you see something when it comes to sexual harassment, you say something. Don't wait on it to come out years later. Although, Lee, we here at Fox are in a very big glass house here, so I can relate to those who say they didn't know or weren't aware. I certainly wasn't aware of a lot of stuff, so either I'm an ignoramus or not, so I could see how that happens. But it is happening now. Thank you very much. But those that do know should say something. All right, Lee, thank you very, very much.